And then it finished 7-1, and I was, of course, angry about it.
Did you let them know?
No. Okay, and they enjoyed it. I realized that I cannot bring football home. Any emotions that I had, I cannot bring home. I don't want my son to see me frustrated after we lose games, or I want to be very grounded, and I want to make sure that the most important thing in my life is what happens at home with my family.
A 34-year-old goalkeeper has taken the starting spot from Iñaki Peña, and it's not the first time he's done this to a rival. Who else has fallen victim to his experience? How does he make Barcelona better? And why does Hansi Flick trust him over Peña? Well, let's talk about that. Who would have thought that Barcelona's best signing this season wasn't some flashy forward or a young wonder kid, but a 34-year-old goalkeeper on the verge of retirement? Wojciech Szczęsny has been nothing short of incredible since arriving at Barca, commanding the box, pulling off insane saves, and looking like he's been there for years. But what makes his impact even more fascinating is the journey he took to get there, and how his arrival has completely reshaped the dynamics of Barcelona's goalkeeping situation. Since making his debut, Szczęsny has completely transformed Barcelona's defence. The team went from looking fragile at the back to being rock solid. He's unbeaten in his first 14 matches, and his presence alone seems to have settled the defence. No more panicky clearances, no more hesitation when dealing with crosses, just calm, composed and authoritative goalkeeping. His shot-stopping ability has been phenomenal, but what has stood out even more is his command of the penalty area, something Barcelona desperately lacked in recent seasons. His ability to read the game, anticipate danger and organise the defence has made an immediate impact. Just look at the stats. Barcelona's defensive record has improved drastically since his arrival. The team has conceded fewer goals per game, with opponents finding it increasingly difficult to break them down. Szczęsny has also made more high claims and punched the ball clear more often than any other Barca keeper in recent memory. His ability to deal with set pieces and crosses has been a game changer, considering how vulnerable the team had been in those situations in the past. And when it comes to one-on-one situations, he has consistently come out on top, making clutch saves that have kept Barcelona in games they otherwise might have lost.
It's Renato Sanchez to hit it. It's terrific from the Polish goalkeeper.
That's not to say Iñaki Peña hasn't had his moments.
Español que recupera de nuevo, buen balón ahí para que pueda llegar Javi Puado. Vemos a Puado con Pau Cubarsí, se va en velocidad. Esto va a ser. ¡Qué parada con el pecho!
He put in some solid performances when Ter Stegen was injured, especially against big teams like Real Betis. And Real Madrid. He was good, but the problem is Barcelona doesn't just need good, they need world class. And in the games that really mattered, Peña's weaknesses were exposed. His struggles with aerial balls, his hesitancy coming off his line, and his inconsistency in high-pressure situations. Against elite opposition, those flaws are magnified, and in modern football, a top club cannot afford to have an unreliable presence in goal. Hansi Flick knew that Barcelona needed more stability in goal, especially if they wanted to compete for titles. And when an opportunity came up to sign a keeper with Szczęsny's experience, it was a no-brainer. Let's not forget that Szczęsny was practically retired. He was ready to step away from football entirely. But something about Barcelona, maybe the challenge, maybe the prestige, convinced him to lace up his gloves again. And this isn't just a comeback story for the sake of nostalgia. He genuinely looks like a player reborn. And boy, has that decision paid off. He's not just filled a role, he's thriving in it. He's the vocal leader at the back, keeping the defense in check, making crucial saves, and showing why experience is invaluable in a goalkeeper. He brings a presence that Barcelona hasn't had in years. When you watch him play, you see a goalkeeper who exudes confidence, someone who believes he belongs at the highest level. That energy spreads throughout the team, boosting morale and reinforcing the belief that they can compete with the best. The debate is over. Flick made the right call. And if Barcelona goes on to have a successful season, a lot of credit will have to go to the Polish shot-stopper, who almost walked away from the game. Szczęsny hasn't just saved shots, he's saved Barcelona's season. And if he keeps performing like this, he might just etch his name into club history as one of the best veteran signings Barca has ever made. At first, the signing seemed strange. Iñaki Peña had been stepping up in Marc-Andre ter Stegen's absence, and while he had his shaky moments, many thought he was doing just fine. Some even believed Szczęsny was just brought in as an experienced backup, someone to help in the dressing room and play the occasional Copa del Rey match. But as we all now know, that didn't happen. Szczęsny walked in and immediately took over as the undisputed number one. His presence alone was enough to shift the goalkeeping hierarchy at the club, sending a clear message that Barcelona wasn't here to experiment. They wanted certainty, reliability, and above all, experience. And honestly, it's not the first time we've seen this happen. Remember when Alisson arrived at Liverpool and made sure no one ever spoke of Karius and Mingale again? Well, the same was done to him at Roma by Szczęsny when he was chosen as number one ahead of young Alisson. Or while at Juventus, his presence meant that the legendary Buffon was relegated to the substitutes bench. He even laughed and said the conclusion is that I am probably the world's greatest goalkeeper of all time. You see, goalkeepers might have longer careers than outfield players, but experience and mentality matters so much in this position that when a seasoned pro steps in, it often becomes obvious who should have been between the posts. The psychological impact of having a veteran in goal cannot be overstated. Defenders feel more assured, the backline is more organised, and there's a natural sense of composure that trickles down the entire team. Having someone like Szczęsny behind them changes the way defenders approach the game, knowing they have a goalkeeper who commands his area with authority. And talking about experience, well, he is as experienced as they get. You probably know the drill by now. If you haven't subscribed to Football Historia yet, hit that button down below. Before Wojciech Szczęsny became a household name in European football, his journey began in his homeland, Poland. His father, Maciej Szczęsny, was a renowned goalkeeper who played for some of the biggest clubs in Poland, including Legia Warsaw. It was almost inevitable that young Wojciech would follow in his father's footsteps, and his early years at Agricola Warsaw set the stage for what was to come. At just 15 years old, Szczęsny's talent was undeniable. His exceptional reflexes, towering presence, and confidence in goal caught the eye of Krzysztof Dowan, Legia Warsaw's revered goalkeeping coach. Dowan had a keen eye for spotting top goalkeeping talents, and he saw something special in the teenager. So impressed was Dowan that he took the extraordinary step of allowing Szczęsny to train with Legia Warsaw's first team, a rare opportunity for someone so young. Training with the senior squad at 15 is not something that happens every day, especially at a club like Legia Warsaw, which has historically been Poland's most successful football club. The intensity of training, the physicality of the senior players, and the pressure to perform could have overwhelmed most teenagers. But Szczęsny was no ordinary teenager. Instead of shying away, he embraced the challenge, learning from experienced professionals and refining his skills at an accelerated rate. By the time he was 16, it became clear to many that Legia Warsaw had a gem on their hands. Scouts from across Europe were beginning to take notice, and whispers of interest from major clubs started circulating. The Polish football scene had seen talented goalkeepers, but Szczęsny seemed different. He had the raw ability, but more importantly, he had the mindset of a future star. It didn't take long before Arsenal took notice, and in 2006, a teenage Szczęsny packed his bags for North London, joining one of England's most prestigious clubs. Arsenal had always been a club that prided itself on developing young talent, and Szczęsny fit the mould perfectly. Tall, agile, and confident beyond his years. At Arsenal, he quickly stood out for his reflexes and confidence. But his path to the first team wasn't without obstacles. In a bizarre turn of events, a gym accident led to him fracturing both of his forearms, sidelining him for months. But once he recovered, he fought his way back, making his senior debut in 2009. But he was not getting that much game time under Arsenal, so he made a loan move to Brentford in 2009-10, which gave him invaluable experience, where he quickly became a fan favourite with his shot-stopping heroics, including a memorable penalty save. By December 2010, injuries to Manuel Almunia and Lucas Fabianski opened the door for Szczęsny, and he made his first Premier League start against Man United at Old Trafford. Arsenal lost 1-0, but the young Pole had announced himself on the big stage. By 2011-12, Szczęsny had cemented himself as Arsenal's number one, playing a key role in the Champions League campaigns and domestic fixtures. He was the fearless, charismatic presence that Arsenal had been looking for between the posts. However, his Arsenal career was a rollercoaster. There were moments of brilliance, like his penalty save against Udinese in the Champions League qualifiers, and frustrating errors, such as the infamous mix-up with Laurent Koscielny in the 2011 League Cup final that gifted Birmingham City the trophy. Despite inconsistencies, he remained Arsenal's first-choice keeper for several seasons, playing a crucial role in the FA Cup triumph in 2014, which ended the club's 9-year trophy drought. That victory was a defining moment, and Szczęsny celebrated it as passionately as any player on the pitch, knowing he'd been a part of something historic. However, everything changed in January 2015 after a disastrous performance against Southampton, where he made costly mistakes and was later caught smoking in the dressing room. That incident, combined with Arsenal signing Petr Cech from Chelsea, signalled the end of his time as the club's number one. Arsene Wenger, who had always had faith in Szczęsny's abilities, decided it was best for him to gain experience elsewhere, and he was sent on loan to AS Roma, a move that would redefine his career. In Italy, Szczęsny found his footing again. Roma's tactical discipline and strong defensive setup helped him mature into a more reliable and composed goalkeeper. It was a different style of football, with a greater emphasis on positioning and anticipation rather than pure reflex saves. By the end of his 2-year loan, he was one of Serie A's best shot stoppers, leading the league in clean sheets during the 2016-17 season. His performances caught the attention of Juventus, and in 2017, he made a permanent move to Turin. However, stepping into Juve's squad meant facing a massive challenge, competing with the legendary Gianluigi Buffon. For a season, Szczęsny played second fiddle to Buffon, but toward the end of the season, we were seeing more Szczęsny, and in 2018, with Buffon's move to PSG, he finally became Juventus' number one. Over the next few years, he helped Juve maintain their dominance in Serie A, winning multiple league titles and making crucial saves in big matches. He became a trusted figure at the back, proving that he could handle the pressure of playing for one of the biggest clubs in Europe. There were standout performances, such as his penalty save against AC Milan and his heroics on Champions League nights. But as time went on, both Szczęsny and Juventus began to show signs of decline. Injuries and inconsistent performances raised questions about his long-term future, and with younger goalkeepers emerging, his time at Juventus seemed to be winding down. His international career had been just as eventful. Szczęsny has been Poland's number one for over a decade, featuring in multiple European Championships and World Cups. He was crucial during Poland's qualification campaigns, making key saves that kept their tournament hopes alive. At the 2022 World Cup, he had one of his best performances on the international stage, saving a penalty from Lionel Messi in the group stages and single-handedly keeping Poland in contention. Despite Poland's limitations as a squad, Szczęsny's heroics have ensured that he remains one of the most respected goalkeepers on the international stage. And just when you thought Wojciech Szczęsny had wrapped up his gloves for good, he pulled off a plot twist worthy of a Hollywood script. One minute, he's announcing his retirement, probably planning beach vacations and casual five-a-side games for fun. And the next, he's back in the thick of elite European football, signing for none other than Barcelona. On the 2nd of October 2024, just over a month after hanging up his boots, Szczęsny was back, this time in La Liga, wearing the iconic Blaugrana colours. And honestly, what a wild turn of events. Barcelona found themselves in a bit of a crisis. Their first-choice goalkeeper, Marc-Andre ter Stegen, suffered a long-term injury, leaving them scrambling for a reliable replacement, as their replacement was still inexperienced, which made them go for Szczęsny, a seasoned veteran with more experience. But here's the catch, he wasn't coming in as the immediate first choice. Hansi Flick made it clear that he'd initially be behind Iñaki Peña in the pecking order. Now, for a keeper of Szczęsny's caliber, that's got to sting a little, but he took it in his stride. After all, this was Barcelona, a club that had dominated football for decades. Even getting a second chance at the top level, let alone a club of this stature, was an opportunity too good to pass up. His debut wasn't long in coming. On the 4th of January 2025, he got his first taste of competitive action in the Copa del Rey against UD Barbastro. A 4-0 victory, nothing too dramatic, but it was a solid start. A quiet reintroduction to club football. But Szczęsny wasn't just here to warm the bench. He got his moment in the spotlight during the Supercopa de España, playing both games, including the final against Real Madrid. Now this is where things got spicy. In classic Szczęsny fashion, he couldn't just have a standard match, he had to make it dramatic. He ended up getting sent off in the final, leaving his team with 10 men. But somehow, Barcelona still ran away with a 5-2 victory. That's the chaotic energy Szczęsny brings. Moments of brilliance mixed with absolute unpredictability. Then came the night that truly cemented his second coming. March 5th, 2025. Champions League, round of 16. First leg, Benfica vs Barcelona at the Estadio de Luz. One of those high-stakes European nights where anything could happen. And of course, something did. In the 22nd minute, Pau Cubarsí saw red, leaving Barcelona to battle with 10 men for nearly 70 minutes. A nightmare scenario for any team. But this was Szczęsny's kind of game. He turned into an absolute wall, pulling off 8 crucial saves to keep Benfica at bay. Save after save, Barcelona clung on, and against all odds, they nicked a 1-0 win. By the final whistle, he wasn't just a standing keeper anymore. He was the hero of the night. The fans loved it. The pundits couldn't stop talking about it. And Szczęsny, well, he was just doing what he does best, thriving in the madness. This unexpected chapter in his career wasn't just about filling in for an injured keeper. It was about proving that even at 34, he still had it. That retirement? More like a brief intermission. Szczęsny was back, and he wasn't done making headlines just yet. But why exactly did Hansi Flick pick him ahead of Peña? You see, Hansi Flick's decision to bench Iñaki Peña and go with Wojciech Szczęsny as Barcelona's #1 was never just about talent. It's about trust, experience, and having someone between the sticks who won't crack under pressure. And if you're wondering why Flick prefers Szczęsny over Peña, let's break it down. Flick knew Peña had the skills. No one's doubting that. The guy is a solid shot stopper, has good reflexes, and his distribution isn't bad either. But being a goalkeeper, especially at a club like Barcelona, isn't just about making saves. It's about being a presence, a leader, a calming force at the back when everything else is going crazy. And that's where Szczęsny takes the edge. Szczęsny has been through it all. He's played at Arsenal, Roma, Juventus, and now Barcelona. He's seen the highest levels of competition, faced off against the best strikers in the world, and knows what it's like to deal with intense pressure. Peña, on the other hand, is still learning the ropes. He's never been in a Champions League quarter-final with everything on the line. He's never had to keep his composure in a title-deciding game. Experience like that is invaluable, and Flick wasn't about to gamble on inexperience when he had a seasoned veteran at his disposal. Another major reason for Flick's decision is Szczęsny's ability to command his defense. This is something that Peña lacks. A goalkeeper isn't just there to make saves. He's the one organizing the backline, shouting instructions, and keeping the defense alert. Szczęsny is constantly talking, making sure his defenders are in the right positions, adjusting their shape, and giving them the confidence to play their game. Peña, not so much. He's more passive and less vocal, and sometimes that hesitancy can cost the team goals. Flick saw this in matches against Real Sociedad, Celta Vigo, and Atletico Madrid, where Peña failed to take command in key moments. Those little details matter at the top level, and they're exactly why Szczęsny is a preferred choice. And then there's the big game mentality. Flick wants players who thrive under pressure, when the stakes are high, when every second counts, when one mistake can cost you everything. You need a goalkeeper who won't flinch. Szczęsny has done it countless times. That Champions League round of 16 match against Benfica? Barcelona were down to 10 men in the first half, clinging to a 1-0 lead. Szczęsny put on a masterclass, making 8 crucial saves and walking away with the Man of the Match award. That's the kind of performance that earns trust. That's the kind of performance that wins trophies. Peña, for all his potential, hasn't had those moments yet. And at this level, Flick can't afford to wait and see if he eventually develops them. Trust is another huge factor. It's not just Flick who believes in Szczęsny, it's the entire defense. When your backline knows they have a goalkeeper who will come out to claim crosses, who will make that crucial save in the dying minutes, who will take charge when things get messy, it changes everything. Players like Jules Koundé and Pau Cubarsí already feel more secure with Szczęsny behind them. That trust allows defenders to play with more confidence and aggression, knowing they're not second-guessing their goalkeeper. With Peña, that certainty wasn't quite there yet. But here's the thing, this decision isn't necessarily permanent. Flick knows Peña has talent. He's watched him closely and he knows the younger keeper has a bright future. But football is all about now, and right now, Szczęsny gives Barcelona a better chance to win. Could Peña eventually take over? Absolutely! But for that to happen, he'll need to show he can step up in high-pressure moments, be more vocal, and improve his overall command of the box. Until then, Flick is sticking with a safer bet. So while some fans might have wanted to see Peña get a proper run in the starting 11, the reality is that Szczęsny is simply more reliable at this stage. He's got the experience, the leadership, and the track record to handle the biggest games. And in a season where every point counts, Flick isn't taking any risks. The gloves belong to Szczęsny for now, and honestly, it's hard to argue against that decision. So what's next for Barcelona's goalkeeping situation? The big question on everyone's mind is, should Iñaki Peña leave to get more playing time? Right now, he's stuck in a tough spot. He's talented, he's capable, and as long as Szczęsny is in goal, Peña is going to be nothing more than a backup. And let's be honest, at 25 years old, he's not exactly a kid anymore. He needs regular minutes if he's ever going to develop into a top-tier goalkeeper. A loan move could be a smart option, but if Barcelona brings in another younger keeper, Peña might start wondering if it's time to move on permanently. Then there's the Szczęsny question. Does he continue as Barcelona's #1 next season? On paper, it makes sense. He's still delivering solid performances and Flick trusts him. But here's the thing. He turns 35 in April. Goalkeepers tend to have longer careers, sure, but how long can he keep performing at this level? Barca has always been a club that looks toward the future, and while Szczęsny's experience is valuable, his long-term place in the squad isn't guaranteed. But what do you think? Can Szczęsny lead them to the treble this season? Well, let me know in the comments, and when you're done with that, please check out this video to see how Pedri is leading this team to another treble.